Hi friends, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to talk about a pretty significant change that I made in our main stairwell, which has been in the works for a while. As a reminder, or if you're new here, when we first moved in, the entire home was painted in this gray-white. And I knew pretty early on that I wanted to change it, but I didn't necessarily know in what way. I've been taking my time updating different spaces in our home for a variety of reasons, including not having the budget to do it all at once, not necessarily having the vision to do it all at once, and wanting to enjoy the process and enjoy living here and taking time to decide on how we want to evolve our home. And I'm glad we did, because the stairwell is a pretty prominent wall in our home. It spans across all 3 floors, and there wasn't really a natural place to stop the color. I felt like if I had tried to create some kind of imaginary line between the different levels, it was just going to interrupt the flow of the home. And so I knew whatever color I ended up choosing, it was going to have to work across the entire home. So the reason why I ended up going with a dark color was because, first of all, I just needed a change from white walls. Almost every other home that I have lived in has had white walls. And yeah, I really just wanted a change. I wanted to infuse color throughout the home. And because the hallway is quite dark, regardless of the time of day, I know in some of the photos the white looks lovely, but on a dark day with gray walls, it was actually really depressing in the home. And because the hallway was so dark to begin with, I thought it would be interesting to fully embrace it and just paint the whole thing dark. In my dream scenario, I have a gorgeous wallpaper that's full of visual interest and texture and spans all the way up the wall and on the ceilings, and just is this gorgeous space. But that is absolutely not in the budget, and I knew it. So I decided to start searching for dark colored paints that I thought would appease both Mike and myself, and that we were unlikely to get sick of, because I knew it was going to be a big undertaking to paint the entire wall. I looked at some dark greens. That was my first instinct, because I do really love green, but I was starting to feel like there was so much green that I had already used in our home that I just wanted to vary the palette a little bit. And while I did consider like a yellow ochre as well, which I think would have looked really nice with the different shades of wood tones in our stairs and on the handrail, I was a little worried that on a gray day it was going to look even more depressing, and maybe, I don't know, I had a feeling I wasn't going to like it in all different times of the year and in all different times of day. So I decided to go for something that was dark and moody, that would retain the color even if it was gray outside, and at some point I could decorate with art and maybe additional cozy lighting that would really make the space come alive regardless of the time of day or what it was like outside. So I was really surprised in the end that I went with a dark blue, but after I ruled out green, that didn't really leave me with a lot of shades. And I sampled, I don't know, I think I sampled probably 4 or 5 different shades of blue and landed on Hague Blue. It's just such a gorgeous, warm, toned blue. I was really surprised. It's not so dark that it's like a dark navy. It's not quite like a charcoal. It's just this indisputable shade of blue, but not in a cold way. So I know this is a really popular color and I totally understand why. So I decided to go for it, and I actually bought the paint back in April after months of deliberating. But I didn't get around to starting this painting project until more recently, honestly, because life was busy and I knew it was going to take a lot of time, and I didn't actually have, I only really had pockets of time that I could work on it. And because this is such a major area in our home, I wanted to do it at a time where I could, start and finish it relatively in a compact way, if that makes sense. So I started with a tinted primer from my favorite paint store in Toronto. And actually, I got a little nervous when I put on the primer, because when you use a primer, whenever I use a primer on these gray-white walls, it's when I see the most change, because I'm basically going from like a gray-white wall to, a dark color. So the primer was labeled as being tinted with Hague Blue, and it was so dark compared to the white walls that I thought for a moment that was actually what the color was going to look like. And you'll see how vibrant the Farrow Ball Hague Blue is compared to the primer. And it's just it was such a reassuring moment to me that I'm so glad that I invested in Farrow Ball paint. Sure, I know there are so many different shades of blue, and they're not the only paint company that can claim that your paint color will look different at different times of the day or in different spots in a room. That's just how lighting works. But it is such a joy to work with, and I just remember feeling this huge sigh of relief when I saw the color, because while the primer had the intended effect of enveloping the room in this dark blue, it was like this very almost like a denim matte dusty dark blue, and it was nice, but it wasn't what I had envisioned. And I honestly started to get worried. I think given how much this color was going to change the feel of the home, it was hard not to be worried that I was making the wrong decision, especially because dark paint requires so many layers to get it smooth and even. And I'll be the first to admit that this was not a professional job. You can definitely see mistakes. You can see streaks. All that to say is I absolutely adored the paint. And after I did the first coat and the second coat, I really felt like, yes, this was the right decision. And I was really glad that I chose this color. And thankfully, Mike loves it. So win-win for both of us. So as I mentioned earlier, it took 4 days to complete the painting of this. it also involved me having to borrow a broom from my sister to paint the taller walls at the top of the stairs, because the broom that I had didn't fit the paint roller appropriately. So if you're ever in that situation, by the way, yes, you can wrap a paper towel around the pole to create a little bit of extra friction in case it's too small. But it really did not feel secure. And I think at least once I didn't screw it on well enough, and the paint roller did fall off. So that was not fun when that happened. So I did have to borrow a paint roller and one of those edging tools from my sister. Just because there's a certain area in the top of my stairs that I eventually want to paint all blue, but I needed to stop temporarily for this phase of painting, I guess. And so the edger really helped just make it look a little bit neater. I also took this opportunity to wipe down and clean the little chandelier from my childhood home. And I didn't create a video for it, but I'll try to find some before pictures of what this chandelier looked like. My parents had actually thrown it out, and I asked my dad to take it back from the garbage, and he thought I was crazy when I asked him to give it to me, but it's actually one of my favorite pieces in the home because of the memories, and also because I feel really proud of how I was able to bring it back to life with a really good clean and a little bit of paint. It was funny because there was a time when I was trying to create mood boards for our home, and I was having trouble narrowing down the color palette because I like too many things, and I was concerned that our house was going to look like a mismatched, crazy, eclectic, but not in a good way kind of home. And honestly, it probably does look that way to some people, but I've decided not to care too much about it because so far each change that we have made, for the most part, I have loved. And I'm just going to keep going with choosing things that make me happy and that Mike also enjoys. I feel like with just painting the wall and not doing anything else has already dramatically changed the look and feel of our home. It's so cozy, just in time for the fall and winter season. I can't wait to add art to the wall and slowly decorate it over time. And I will post another update video when I have a few more things added to it. We are thrilled with how it is looking, and I'm feeling like our home is really starting to feel like it's got some personality, and it's just feeling more cozy and cohesive in my weird, chaotic way. If you're still here, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.